Shalom, everyone. It's Cantor Adam. It's Erev Pesach. I want to wish you a happy Passover. We're at the moment in the Torah in chapter 12 of Exodus when Moses tells the people, "V'yochluhu et habasar ba'layla hazeh, ba'layla hazeh, ba'layla hazeh, tzli eish umatzot al merorim yochluhu." That this is the moment when you're supposed to eat the roasted paschal lamb with matzah and moror. And he goes on to instruct the Israelites further. V'kacha tochluhu oto matnechem chagurim na'alechem beraglechem. This is how you shall eat it, with your clothes on, with your sandals on your feet. Umakelchem beyadchem, with your staff in your hand. Ve'achlatem oto bechipazon, and you shall eat it in a hurry. Bechipazon, in haste. This is that moment when the bread did not have enough time to rise, when we made quick bread, matzah. Every year, we're enjoined to recall the Exodus from Egypt as though we personally experienced it. That journey from slavery and oppression to liberation and freedom to live as we desire is our own. The whole point of the Seder and all the symbols and the asking questions is to be able to fulfill the commandment and be able to answer the question by saying "Vehigareta levincha bayom hahu lemor," that you should be able to tell your child in your own day, saying, "It is because of that which the Eternal did for me when I came forth out of Egypt." So not our ancestors, but ourselves. We're supposed to picture ourselves of having made that journey. Every year, as we tell that story, and in every age, we celebrate our freedom by remembering what it was like to gain it anew once more. And every year and in every age, there's a fresh reason to do so. A new call for freedom from tyranny and new meaning for the symbols of the Seder. This year, as spring arrives and we dip our karpas into salt water to remember our ancestors' tears from oppression, we can't help but acknowledge that right now there are people who also are crying due to their oppression, due to sickness and hunger and war. And this year, as we eat the maror, the bitter herbs, we likewise think of those who are suffering, whose lives are made bitter from sickness and hunger and oppression and war. As we remember our ancestors leaving in haste tonight at our Seders, and eating their food on the go, we remember the refugees who likewise have their bags on their back and their sticks in their hand and their food in the other, displaced from their homes due to violence, visited upon them for no other reason than one individual's sick and depraved need to prove their own relevance and earthly power, just like Pharaoh. Pharaoh in the Torah is only called by his title, Pharaoh, like king or dear ruler, dear leader. There's no name. And that's because in some way the Torah is erasing Pharaoh's name from history. And we can only hope that the same thing happens to Pharaoh Putin. But what we can't forget is that as we sit down to our Seders tonight and we eat foods like charoset, the sticky, sweet combination of apple and wine and walnuts or dates, whatever it might be, the charoset, which represents the mortar with which our ancestors were forced to build Egyptian cities and buildings, that we remember that right now, Ukrainian cities have been destroyed, are left in smoldering ruins, that buildings have been taken apart brick by brick and lay in rubble in the street. Here's my challenge to you, friends. As we eat the charoset tonight, and as bits of apple and walnut fall from our mouths or from the matzah back onto our plate, let's remember those whose bricks, whose homes, whose cities have fallen apart, like bits of charoset. And let's also use that charoset to remember not just that our ancestors built Egyptian cities, but that it's incumbent upon us to help rebuild Ukrainian cities using charoset, using the mortar, let's do that. Let's try to put our good thoughts into action and remember that suffering was not ours alone, and that we sit down to Seder is not to remember just the past, but that we are supposed to do things now in the present for those who are suffering. So, a couple other things before I bid you happy Passover. First, join us Saturday morning, April 23rd, for a lively festival and Shabbat morning service along with Yizkor. The rabbis and I look forward to seeing you and singing with you as we also remember our beloved departed. Then, the next evening, Sunday, April 24th, 6:30 at TBE, we are marking the official end of Passover through a custom called Maimuna. Maimuna is related to the Hebrew word for faith, emunah, or amen, you may know. And this is a fantastic Moroccan Jewish custom to mark the end of Passover, the return of chametz with lively music and delicious pastries and sweets. And so we're going to have a lot of wonderful treats, Moroccan-style pastries and Moroccan Jewish jazz provided by Asefa, led by my friend and musicologist, Dr. Samuel Torjeman Thomas. It's going to be a great evening. It's an official event. We're being joined by and honored by the presence of the Consul General of the Kingdom of Morocco to the United States. So this is a very official Maimuna event, and I'm looking forward to celebrating with you and all our friends Sunday, April 24th at TBE, 6:30 p.m. So with that, I want to wish you Chag Sameach, a Zis and Pesach, a happy Passover, and have a delicious and sweet and meaningful